So from yesterday in the morning, we've seen a huge spike in traffic on Chinese social media Weibo, where lots of netizens were posting video content about China's military activities in the southern city of Xiamen, which is actually just across the Taiwan Strait.
So very close.
Yeah. So basically, those video contents were being shared on Weibo and some closed or private chat room on WeChat, where Chinese people discuss about what has been going on. Apparently, the censorship started a while the Nancy Pelosi arrived in Taiwan, and the most censored content was actually the image of a welcoming message displayed by the LED lights on the tallest building in Taipei, which is dubbed Taipei 101.
That's really interesting. So these images, are they normally censored by China? Do you think in this instance they wanted people to understand that they were taking action?
Well, this is a really interesting question because normally any activities related to the Chinese government officials or the military activities would be censored. But the interesting point of yesterday's internet trend is that those contents has been circulating on multiple platforms for a long time, and it's still existing and being shared and commented by netizens right now. So obviously, when Chinese social media is believed to be a heavily censored platform for netizens to use the internet, those contents which is not being censored could be delivering a message that the government would intentionally want the Chinese people domestically to understand.
To see it, that's interesting. China has very quickly slapped some trade sanctions on Taiwan. Does that not feel counterintuitive to you, given it's meant to be one China? That's what they keep pushing.
This is a really good question. So one thing that is always so fascinating is that, while Beijing is actually sending a very strong narrative against Pelosi's visit to Taiwan and the Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen's, speech today along with Pelosi, but the problem is that in the narrative, there is kind of a loophole. While China is claiming Taiwan is part of its sovereignty, at the same time, China is actually using economic coercion and sanctions against a province which it claims
as its own. Yes.
As its own. So a lot of people were asking the question, like, how China could sanction itself if Taiwan is part of China?
Yes, very interesting. How are Taiwanese people feeling? I mean, did they welcome this visit? I mean, the sort of attention that it's garnered them, was it worth it? What have they been saying and feeling?
There is definitely mixed feeling from Taiwanese people, according to our interviews with a lot of residents in Taiwan. Many of them, they welcomed Pelosi's visit because they feel like, this is going to give Taiwan a better exposure on a global stage. Because Taiwan is banned from joining a lot of international organizations, for example, the WHO, or joining the Olympic Games as Taiwan or the Republic of China due to the so-called one China policy being imposed or acknowledged by a lot of countries, including the United Nations. So in these kind of circumstances, Taiwanese people, they do believe Pelosi's visits would bring Taiwan a better media exposure around the world. But at the same time, it is very interesting that they don't really feel as engaged as these political current affair like the other audiences around the world, because China's threats and China's responses, including the military threats against Taiwan, has been going on for decades. It's part of their Euro life, and they feel they get used to it very well.
Yes, and that's interesting. What is your historical perspective on how sort of dramatic this is? Is this the worst that you've noticed it?
So at this moment, we can't really tell if this is the worstest, but from my perspective, I think there were a couple of, crises which is that Taiwan Strait crisis was very serious in the past, including the one happened in early or mid 1990s. So in 1995 to 1996, for over 8 months, China has been using, shooting missiles, over 20 missiles over the Taiwan Strait to target Taiwan, because at that moment, Taiwanese people elected their first president through a democratic system. And the president, Lee Teng-hui, actually visited the United States, which actually offended Beijing and caused the crisis itself.